Welcome, a tired Cooper Mays, and understandably so, as the Vols in their first Saturday practice of spring camp went long, and I guess Josh Heupel wanted to get some stuff done. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Go to cityheatandair.com. I'll tell you more about them. But Coop, how you feeling? Because according to our schedule, that practice was supposed to be over, I think about 12:45, and it just kept on rolling. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm good. Definitely had some stuff to work on, some stuff to get done. So I'm feeling good about it where we're going.
Yeah, and you finished the first week, and that first Saturday I've always found when I was there on a daily basis was always kind of challenging because it felt like more of a scrimmage type situation. Now the game's changed a lot, and I don't know how much full pads you guys actually were able to hit on Saturday, but having that first week under your belt, how nice is that?
It's good for me. I feel really good. Healthy and everything, and kind of getting your muscle back. I mean, kind of when you play all throughout the season, it's you can't keep as much muscle on, and you can't work out as hard because it's just a grueling season and stuff hurts, stuff's dinged up. So kind of getting back into the swing of things, getting healthy and getting strong again. It feels really good.
Do you feel considerably stronger after the first quarter of the year is mostly spent in the weight room?
Uh, I would probably say I feel my strongest going into like fall camp. So like the beginning of fall camp after like a whole summer session, I feel really strong usually about then going into the season.
I'm just curious because my son and I were talking recently about how he got 185, and I was happy for him. I was thinking, I don't know if I could get that with my old shoulders. If somebody said, "Here's $10 million," okay, what's the most? I know you guys don't do one rep maxes anymore, but I'm just curious. One rep max on bench that people can associate with that. They don't know what power clean is half the time, but one rep max for $10 million, how much could you throw up there?
Man, that's a good question. I don't even really know because we don't flat bar like flat on the bench like straight bar bench like we don't really do it. So I wouldn't even really be able to know now, but I've hit 405 before in high school at the end of high school. So that was probably when I was the strongest though. So I don't know.
Straight. So my fat butt would be like your warm up weight. I'm just a little, a little over
I,
200.
I've been pretty strong in my life at certain points for sure.
How much of that is natural, and how much of that is hard work being around a football family and probably being in a weight room early in your life?
I would say it's a little bit of both. I've always been really strong, but I don't know. Yeah, I worked really hard at it. I love benching. Like I love like doing back and like shoulders and upper body. So I was always really naturally strong at that. Um, Also helps. We used to throw hay all the time. So like during all of my high school and like late of middle school, like we would throw hay and do hay all on our farms. So that just builds up all the muscles in your upper body and lower body too. Like it's probably the best workout you can ever do without being in a weight room. It hits all your muscles. So
Yeah, it's
Me and Kate got really strong off that.
oh, I've done that. It's called terrible.
Oh yeah, miserable is probably what I would say.
I mean,
Terrible.
until you get to the point where you're the guy that's just kind of on the top of the haystack and you're just piling stuff. But that's usually the oldest guy like me. But yeah, when I did it, it felt like a day that would never end.
Even when you're the stacker, it's not even good either because maybe on the trailer when you're loading them up off the field, but like when you get up into the top of the barn, dude, if they have the tin roof on them, it's about like 110 degrees up top when you're stacking, and you got on long sleeves because you don't want the itch. But that's probably the right word, miserable.
Yeah, tougher day going against a team like Alabama or slinging hay all day.
Oh man, that's a good question. If there wasn't 100,000 people watching, probably going against Alabama. I don't know. I mean, I've had a bunch of bad days doing hay. There've literally been days where I've gone and did like a 4-hour practice and then come right back home and hop on in the truck and we drive up on the mountain and deliver hay, like 200 bales. So I've done both. And I mean, it's just all around. It's just not a good experience.
Oh, to be young again. A lot of things I want to get into. An offensive lineman appears to be standing out per Cooper, and also just the expectations that seem to be so through the roof for freshmen in any spring practice to me is a little bit of a head scratcher. So we'll get into all of that. It's brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Please hit that thumbs up button, the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that. cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters. Over 50 years in experience, they'll make sure that you get what you need, whether that's a new unit or maybe they'll save you money with just a new part or added Freon. They've got all that. City Heating and Air, cityheatandair.com. Integrity matters. So you like what you see out of John Campbell so far? You mentioned before we got rolling. What do you like out of John?
I like how he moves is the main thing. He's got heavy hands and you know he's still learning kind of what to do. I mean, he's still a new guy and it's a lot to learn a whole new system, especially the one that we run is a lot different than most people. So that thing's gonna pick up. But just from like a movement standpoint, athleticism, and just knowing how to play football, John has a lot of that covered. So he stood out to me a little bit.
For those that don't know exactly what you mean, when you talk about heavy hands, what
Welcome.
is
Please.
I think you got a call. What does heavy hands mean?
Heavy hands is like I don't know. It's something you got to feel probably rather than see. But there's just like I don't. The best thing I can describe it as like when you're young and you got an older guy and he puts kind of hands on you. There's like that grown man shrink. You've probably heard about that or probably experienced it.
Yes.
Like there's something just about like a older guy that probably hasn't worked out in about 10 years, but he's just got like a natural level of shrink. And that kind of is like the best way you can describe like heavy hands. But like when you put hands on people, it affects them and stops what they're doing.
Well, that to me is pretty impressive because he's long too. I mean, he's a big, tall guy. So if he's got heavy hands that latch onto you, that's a pretty good mixture at tackle for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, really good. I mean, that's the name of the game. A tackle is feet and hands. So if you got both of those, you're probably get a good setup for success in the position.
What question are you asked most when you're around Tennessee fans about spring camp? Are your friends, your classmates? What do you ask when people go, "Hey, Coop, give me the inside"? What are they asking most of the time? I'm curious.
Everybody always asks about quarterbacks and like wide receivers, running backs, people that do stuff that people actually want to watch. Nobody asks about the O line or anything. So that's I don't know. I mean, anybody but us is what they'll ask about probably. Mostly quarterbacks.
Well, let me go down that route then, because I thought maybe you would say that. But here you have Nico Iamaleava, and I think most are smart enough to know that Joe Milton. I mean, it's his job for now, and he has done everything to earn it. But people get infatuated with younger guys. So when people ask you about Nico, what's your first response?
In regards to the if they're asking me just kind of about him as a player and if he's going to start or whatever, I kind of just tell people to like I don't know. It's hard to explain to people that don't play or haven't played at this level, but like it's not really friendly for like young guys that haven't. That's the best way I can explain it.
Friendly, I like that.
Everybody wants to come in and like start like their first year, and I started a lot. I mean, I started like 3 or 4 games my freshman year. I played a lot my freshman year. It's not like a real friendly environment for an 18-year-old kid. You know what I'm saying? So you've got 23-year-old men out there that have been in SEC weight rooms for 5 years, and you're fresh out of high school, don't really know the game, and the game's really fast. You're not very confident in yourself. It's not very friendly for a young guy. So anytime anybody asks me, if a freshman's going to play or they're going to start right away, I mean, I kind of just put a little bit of realistic, vibe into there and just tell them to halt their horses a little bit because it's a lot deeper than just being a talented football player to be able to play this game at a high level.
It's a massive jump. I don't think sometimes people understand that. I mean, in the SEC level, every guy's a dude. I mean, every guy's really good Where at the high school level, what? There are 5 good guys on both teams on the field at any given time, maybe?
if that, if that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely massive jump. When you talk to Cade and you talk to your brother, and you talk to Trey Smith about the jump from college to the NFL, how do they describe it in comparison to high school to college?
I would say they would say it's probably less of an extreme jump from high school to college because high school, the bar can be set so low for some certain levels of competition, especially, Tennessee is not known for like a high level competition, but if you go down to maybe Texas or Alabama, Florida, I mean, there's going to be some higher level competition there, pretty much more consistently. But for the most part, the jump from high school to college is probably a little bit more drastic, and from what I've heard, I haven't experienced it, so I can't really comment firsthand. But um, yeah,
Well, it's funny because you got thrown out there that then they absolutely needed you, and I know Jeremy really really liked you. So, is it better to get thrown out there and realize how much work you have to do, or is it better to sit back and play a smaller role and work on your game for your redshirt freshman or sophomore year?
if you ask somebody in the moment, they're always going to want to play and want to play right then. But looking back on it, usually you're going to figure out that you weren't really ready for that moment at all, and maybe you had to, and it was needed, and you were called on. So it's not your fault or anything. It's not anything to be mad about or anything bad. But you do look back and you're like, dang, I wish I would have you know been at a more you know confident level and a level of knowledge of football where you understand what you were actually doing. Because sometimes I felt like I hurt people around me because I was so young, and you have so much pressure on you for being a young guy. You feel like you have to do so much, and I felt like I hurt kind of people around me sometimes because I didn't know exactly what to do or how to do it, which it wasn't my fault technically or
Oh.
anything. But I take a lot of responsibility for being there for the guys around me, and sometimes I wasn't when I was supposed to be.
How did you avoid getting discouraged?
I had a lot of great people around me. I played beside either Cade, Jerome, or Trey for that whole season. So I was playing next to a bunch of guys that loved me as a person and had a lot of faith in me as a player, and moreover, kind of just had a lot of people there lifting me up. So my first start, Cade was out there making a lot of the calls for me. He told me just go out there and play hard, and I'll worry about the calls and I'll spot it for you and everything. So that took a lot of weight off of my shoulders. I had Trey next to me, and he's off the charts good, so that helps you a lot. But at the same time, I was there was sometimes during the season where I wasn't where I was supposed to be to help him, and it made him look bad. So I felt really bad about that. But he kind of turned around and would make sure, like, Coop, it's not your fault. You know, just kind of pick you up and love on you. So that's what you got to have as a young guy.
Yeah, and you had that. You also had, and it's still on, I believe, your Twitter account where it says undersized or something to that effect. And I think they may have helped take some of that weight off your shoulders, but you've got a very good chip on your shoulders. Some people have a bad chip on their shoulder and it drags them down in the negative way, but you've got a fantastic chip on your shoulder. So how important was that in the too small, he can't play to prove those guys wrong, that motivation?
Yeah, it for me, it was just always been something that I've thought about because my whole high school experience kind of, I guess people thought that I was getting recruited, or the only reason I was getting recruited was because of my brother and stuff, and there that wasn't true. A lot of teams loved me just personally as a player without Kate involved. So just to have people kind of discredit a lot of your success on the way to getting where you're going kind of puts a lot of fuel to the fire. So I'm not somebody that sits here and like stews over it all day. That's not it. But like I've always got that in my mind that I'm it doesn't matter who I'm going against, how big they are, whatever they do, I'm gonna be fine in my own shoes and in my own right.
Yeah, I think that there's, like I said, a chip on your shoulder can be negative, but yours has been very positive because here you are. Yeah, I mean, you've already been all SEC once. You're probably going to be all SEC first team, and you might even represent Tennessee at SEC media days. That's coming a long way, man. You should be proud of that.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, man. I mean, yeah,
I knew you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't take a compliment well.
yeah, yeah, you're right. That's a lot of good stuff to be proud of.
Yeah, but there is more to go, though. I'm not saying that's the end of the story.
Naturally, yeah, no doubt. That's it's hard to smell. I don't even know the words.
Smell the roses when you're running and trampling through them.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that sounds about right. But sometimes I guess you got to stop. That you're right. There's a lot of good stuff going for me. A lot of good stuff has happened in my life for sure.
Okay, so now who do you put your arm around and lift them up like Trey and Cade did with you? Who is that guy that you look at and say, if Cooper's a part of his life, he can really elevate his game?
Oh man, I'm not sure who that guy is this year. Last year was Darnell. I felt like I put a lot of like I tried to make a huge emphasis on trying to make sure Darnell was at his best and pump a lot of love and faith into him and kind of build his confidence and everything. But there's a couple guys that we're gonna need to step up. So all of those guys, I'm pretty much the leader of the room. So I feel like I have to kind of lift everybody up in my own way this year.
So your intention was to be the leader of the room. So it sounds like you've already done that. Do you like that role?
It's interesting. I like it, yeah, but it's super interesting. I'm always it's so weird for me. I've been thinking about it because I'm always, I've always been little bro kind of. So you kind of just what we were talking about, with Trey, Jerome, and Cade and everybody. So I've always been in like the little brother role in a certain way. But now kind of people look up to me. So it's weird. It's a new dynamic for sure. But I think I'm rolling with it pretty well and doing what I need to do.
Is there more pressure?
No, no, not really. Just you have to do more. A little bit more coaching and talking, and I'm usually a quieter guy. So in that regard, so it's just different. It's not better or worse or whatever, but it's a different role for sure.
Mm, I can definitely empathize. So he's Cooper Mays. I'm Dave Hooker. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. Click that thumbs up button. Get more from the Vols as our YouTube channel is always flowing. And also be sure you have subscribed. Thank you, City Heating and Air Conditioning, cityheatandair.com. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.